In these same weeks, Monsignor Athanasius Schneider revealed that he had proposed to Leo XIV something much more concrete than a signal, an Apostolic Constitution, a solemn document, a stable norm. The proposal is on the table. The answer, for now, is missing, and Pope Francis's Traditionis Custodes is still in force. Let's start with the facts in the order in which they occurred. In January 2026, in an interview published by the Confraternity of Our Lady of Fatima, Schneider declared that he had personally met Leo XIV and proposed a solemn document. That is, an apostolic constitution, not a simple motu proprio, to establish a definitive legal framework that overcomes the restrictions introduced by the Traditionis Custodes of 2021. Schneider's words are precise. I would suggest issuing a more solemn document than a motu proprio. Benedict XVI had issued one, Francis had issued one contrary to it. It would not be appropriate to issue another anti-motu proprio against Francis. Better something more solemn, which definitively establishes the freedom of the traditional Mass. Schneider then revealed something even more significant. Leo XIV confided in him that he had met young converts who had been attracted to the faith precisely through the Latin Mass, a personal, directed mission that leaves no room for misunderstanding. The Pope knows what the traditional Mass does to souls. He knows it works. The question is what he intends to do with this knowledge. On the practical front, concrete signs are also arriving from other channels. The website messainlatino.it and the magazine Info Vaticana have documented a significant evolution in detail. The Apostolic Nuncio has informed the bishops of England and Wales that Leo XIV intends to grant broad exemptions from the restrictions of the Traditionis Custodes to those who request them. Leo XIV publicly told the French bishops that the faithful attached to the ancient rite cannot be marginalized. In the post-Traditionis Custodes context, where every Latin Mass depends on the goodwill of the local bishop, this phrase sounds almost revolutionary. It's not yet legally binding, but on the political ecclesial level, it marks a shift in tone compared to Francis's 7 years. And it's in this context that National Public Radio publishes an enthusiastic article. Something is moving then. The question is, how much, in what direction, and above all, whether it's moving enough. We need to be precise here to avoid falling into two opposing errors. The first is that of the progressive media, celebrating every positive sign as if it were already a historic turning point. It isn't. Traditionis Custodes is still in effect. Every celebration of the Latin Mass still depends on the discretion of the local bishop. Every traditionalist community is still in a precarious legal position. The second mistake, symmetrical but opposite, would be to dismiss every positive signal as mere cosmetics. This isn't the case. The fact that Leo XIV met with Schneider and listened to his proposal is real. The fact that the Nuncio informed the English bishops of future exemptions is real. The fact that Leo XIV publicly stated that the faithful of the ancient rite cannot be marginalized is real. These are not empty gestures. But there is a distinction that tradition has learned to make at great cost, at the cost of decades of promises and denials, of openings and closings. The distinction is this: a signal is not a document, a declaration is not a norm, an intention is not a law. And until there is a document, the Apostolic Constitution that Schneider proposed, the freedom of the traditional Mass depends on the discretion of the bishops, which is exactly the situation that Traditionis Custodes created in the opposite sense. Then the bishops could prohibit, now they could permit. But in both cases, freedom is in the hands of the bishops, not the faithful, not the law. Then, there is the problem of the framework that the mainstream media constructs around Leo XIV. When NPR writes that Leo XIV revives traditional practices, it is confusing two completely different levels: the aesthetics of tradition and the freedom of tradition. Leo XIV can restore ceremonial practices of Holy Week, and this has value, it should not be denied. But aesthetics are no substitute for substance. A pope who celebrates more solemnly but leaves Traditionis Custodes in force is making stylistic gestures, not acts of freedom. And traditionalists, the serious ones, those who have lived through 20 years of restrictions, closed communities, priests persecuted by their own bishops, know how to distinguish between a gesture and a document. Schneider's proposal is exactly that, a document, an Apostolic Constitution that isn't a revocable favor, but a legal recognition of a right that should never have been questioned. Schneider himself explained why he chose this form and not a simple motu proprio, because recent history teaches us that motu proprios are overturned by their successors. Benedict XVI's Summorum Pontificum was a masterpiece of generosity, and Francis demolished it in 4 years. An Apostolic Constitution is more difficult to dismantle. That's the logic. It's not a vendetta against Francis, it's a guarantee for the future. Leo XIV listened. He knows what that liturgy produces in souls. He knows that traditionalist communities are among the most vital, the youngest, the most fruitful in the contemporary church. The question is whether this awareness will translate into concrete action or remain in the realm of good intentions. The overall picture is this: Leo XIV is giving signs of real openness to liturgical tradition, more than Francis ever did, more than pessimistic traditionalists acknowledge. But signals aren't enough. Without documentation, all this remains mere signals. And history teaches us that signals in the post-conciliar church can take decades to become reality. Tradition doesn't ask for kindness. It doesn't ask for positive signals, informal overtures, or declarations to bishops. It asks for freedom, a freedom sanctioned by a solemn, stable document that cannot be overturned by the next pontificate. Leo XIV has all the tools to do so. He has the intelligence, the information, and the awareness of what the traditional Mass produces in souls. It remains to be seen whether he also has the courage. And tradition, meanwhile, continues to pray and to wait. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.